welcome back to yet another exciting episode. It is Tuesday and today we're finding ourselves at the Municipal Botanical Gardens, right? Hi viewers, welcome back to yet another exciting episode. It is Tuesday and today we're finding ourselves at the Municipal Botanical Gardens right here in Swakopmund. So as per usual, we'll be bringing you some news, some weather and tides, and we'll be speaking to Professor Tötemeyer, who will be speaking about the Namibian policy, Namibian language policy for schools in Namibia. So stay tuned, we'll be right back after this. I'm joined by a few friends of mine here since it's Youth Day. So for our new segment, we have the African Child Development Trust launched. Hundreds of thousands of learners are set to benefit from the newly launched African Child Development Trust, ACDT, which is aimed at raising funds for the production and distribution of educational booklets for pre-primary to grade 3 learners for the next 3 years. The trust was launched recently in Windhoek. The initiative, which started as an emergency response during the pandemic, came into being in 2020 when Namibia Media Holdings was entrusted with the rollout of the first ever national educational support study material during the COVID-19 lockdown. So far, 12 million booklets have been printed and distributed countrywide, a development made possible by the Education Ministry, Capricorn Foundation, Namibia Community Trust and UNICEF, along with technical support by a dedicated team of teachers from various schools in Windhoek. Education Minister Anna Kipondoka is patron of the ACDT, an independent trust run by trustees. Recently, Kipondoka said on our call to the stakeholders and to our friends of education, when all our hands were tied, they came to the rescue of the ministry. These friends were proudly addressed as Namibia Media Holdings and the rest of the other trustees, the schools and Namibia Community Trust, as well as the involved teachers who made it possible for the project to provide learning support material. This emergency response to COVID-19 started in 2020, she said. Moving on to our next youth sports story, swimming action which recently took place in Swakopmund. The Pupkovits Inter-Schools Gala organized the Namibia Swimming Federation, and which was set to take place on 19 March at Namibia Fitness Pool located here in Swakopmund. The two swimming clubs, Swakopmund Swimming Club and Flipper Swimming Club, is assisting with the hosting of the gala at the coast. Pupkovits Foundation is the sole sponsor. An estimated number of 80 swimmers partook, aged from 16 to 18, from 10 different schools, and represented different clubs, which took place in events such as butterfly, freestyle, backstroke and breaststroke. The entries were categorized in the individual and relay entries, and the individuals had to pay a fee of 10,000 for each event, and those participating in the relay had to pay 20 Namibian dollars. The ability of swimmers to swim for 50 meters without stopping or being assisted by a noodle afloat is the main criteria, or was the main criteria to partake in this event. Cash prizes were up for grabs for the top 3 performing primary and high schools. Tentley Low, who is also a swimming coach, said that swimming is the best sport on earth because one gets to exercise your entire body. It is healthy and a good life skill to have it, and it also keeps you younger, he said. So stay tuned, we'll be right back after this. Say bye, friends. Bye.
the language policy for Namibian schools? Is it working? Well, that policy has got a long, long history, longer than the existence of Namibia as an independent nation. It comes from 40 years ago, when the language policy was drafted. Swapo in exile started preparing themselves for the leadership of a newborn state, Namibia. There were major challenges that needed to be considered, such as education and communication in a multilingual country. Decisions needed to be made on how to handle some pressing matters, such as in what language should government communicate with the nation, and how can an educational program for the schools be designed for a population that was speaking 13 languages. This policy document was drafted in exile at the United Nations Institute for Namibia in Lusaka, or UNIN for short, which opened in 1976. It was based on the work of 3 English-speaking expatriate scholars, Chamberlain, Diallo, and John. One a British Council employee, one an American, and the other one an Indian. None of them were Namibians. The term national language was first used in the 1980s by the new upcoming leaders in an independent country. Shortly after the new government was proclaimed on 21 March 1990, a conference of all stakeholders in education was called to consider, among others, the new language policy for the schools. So we were invited, I was there, to go there to consider it. So we were ready for a fruitful discussion. No discussion was allowed. The policy ended up as being a fait accompli. The atmosphere was electric, and many attendees, including myself, had questions as we saw a looming disaster coming. Schools were informed as of January 1991, the medium of instruction would be English. School principals and teachers, most of them hardly being able to speak English properly, particularly those in the remote rural schools throughout the country, panicked so badly that subject advisors of the Ministry of Basic Education, Culture, Youth and Sport were transported in buses to the schools to calm the teachers down. However, in spite of this crisis situation, English medium instruction in the schools was obliged to start in January 1991, 10 months after independence. By 1990, it was estimated that less than 1% of the Namibian population were mother tongue speakers of English. Wolfart estimated it at 0.8% of mother tongue English speakers in Namibia at the time of independence. And it was well known that the language was hardly spoken by the population at large. Most Namibians could not read and write English properly, including most rural teachers. One can say that English taught in Namibian schools since South Africa became the mandatory power ruling over Southwest Africa did not really succeed in making the Namibians fluent English speakers and good readers and writers of English. This is a most problematic model in the face of all the research showing that almost no child, even most children with an above average intelligence, will be able to acquire a sound cognitive basis after only 3 years in mother tongue or home language schooling. She will not be able to learn a foreign language such as English well enough to understand subjects such as natural science and social studies for the senior primary grades 4 to 7. And if such learners are nevertheless promoted to the secondary school, unable to speak, read and write correct English, having developed a sound, without having developed a sound cognitive basis laid during the years of primary education, junior primary education, they are most likely to fail to progress during secondary school. The main problem with the system is that many learners end up in secondary school not even understanding the questions set in English for the public examination in all the subjects. So they're sitting there, the exam paper is distributed, and they look at it and they don't understand the question. They may have learned it by rote, learning like a canary in their heads. But now they don't understand the question, so they don't know where they can start writing. So they can't write a public examination, because what you can't understand, you can't answer. Let alone answer in writing in English. They can't even understand the question. But if they do have, they're lucky enough to guess right, then they still have to write it in English. We don't penalize them for making grammatical mistakes and so, but it's an absolute pain to go through all those stacks and stacks of papers with this kind of hopeless English that they're trying to say what they have to say. So, in fact, these children and youth, they can't even learn, as they can't understand English well enough. Now, what about all the other languages spoken in Namibia? These other languages that is nowhere named. There are quite a number of oral languages in which one cannot read and write. 14 Namibian languages have a standardized orthography. Orthography sounds so very grand, but all it means it's a set of spelling rules. A set of spelling rules which the government has declared as the standard for that language. Now, I'm saying that there are 14 languages that can be taught. They have a standardized orthography tested by the ministry. Placed in the order of most mother tongue speakers. They are Oshikwanyama. There are more than the Oshikwanyama speakers. The language most spoken mostly. Oshikwanyama, Oshindonga. Because they are rather similar, together they are also called Oshiwani. Khoikhoi, formerly we called it Namadamara. Afrikaans is the third biggest language in Namibia. I'll say something about the Khoikhoi Gubak and Afrikaans. They're like two horses. Afrikaans, number 3. Rupangali, Ochirero, Sinovisi, Rumanyu. Formerly that was called Mirico, but now they call it Rumanyu. Timbuktu, English, German, Jungkwansi, Setswana, and sign language. What is the history of the 13 languages in Namibia? The oldest language spoken in Namibia, languages spoken in Namibia, are the San Bushman languages, spoken by at least 6 family groups, each group living in isolation, with the result that the languages are totally different. except that all of them have cliques. They're not the same at all. In Namibia, only one San Bushman language has an approved orthography, namely Jukwansi. Now, Khoikhoi, spoken by the Namas, must be the second oldest language in Namibia, as it also belongs to the San family group. It has many cliques. Afrikaans in the form of Cape Dutch was brought into the country in 1796 by two prominent Namibian political tribal leaders, Jager Afrikaner and Kiddo Witbooi, who was the father of Andree-Jeanne, both born in South Africa. As a result, already during the 19th century, Afrikaans in the form of Cape Dutch initially became dominant in South and Central Namibia and partly also in the North. It is unfortunate that in later years, particularly since the 60s, Afrikaans became the Namibian language most hated by Afro-Namibians. Swapo in exile and most people in the far north, who became an active part in the liberation struggle against the apartheid regime and were particularly exposed to the occupation of South African armed forces in the north, mostly composed of Afrikaans speakers. The people in the north were suffering from oppression, discrimination and torture by the soldiers of the South Africa Defence Force. Many people in the far north believed that Afrikaans was a colonial language of oppression. Afrikaans, after all, was the mother tongue of those who enforced the apartheid ideology in Namibia to keep Afro-Namibians subservient, or for other purposes, you never know. Political leaders need to understand that Afrikaans never was a colonial language. It was brought into the country by South African colonial oppressors, but was not brought into the country by South African colonial oppressors, but by indigenous colored Cape Dutch-speaking leaders immigrating from the south over the Orange River a long time ago. Is it possible to teach subjects up to grade 12 level in the indigenous languages? Theoretically, yes, if you go about it as I've mentioned now. But owing to their net, it remains a challenge to educate learners in the former African languages, in the indigenous languages. The implementation of multilingual education policies is difficult. It will require huge budgets for the development of mother tongue training programs and the writing and publishing of readers and set books in several languages. And again, there is the question, where are the teachers, the Afro-Namibian teachers? As far as the practice of using unqualified Afro-Namibian teachers is concerned, the question is, how can such people teach grade 12 learners on the first language level, when they themselves maybe had no tuition? What effect does the official language policy have on teachers, learners, parents, and the society after 32 years of independence? Is it possible to adapt and to reconsider the present language policy with English as the dominant and only official language, particularly at school level? My answer is nein. Those of you who don't know German, this is now a new word. It's a mixture of ja and nein. We say ja. So you could say yes, theoretically it's possible, but practically it's almost impossible to happen. Is the language policy working? I think you would agree with me, it's not working. It's not working at all. So the enforced English medium teaching policy needs to be reviewed and reconsidered.
Hello guys, my name is Malanya Kanyangera, a grade 10 learner from Junta High School, and I would like to give you a few study tips on how to make studying easier for you. First thing to do is figure out your study style, which will make it easier for you to know in what way you want to study, whether you're auditory or a writing learner. Second of all, figure out a set timetable to know which subjects to study when or where. And third of all, try revising after school. Different subjects, different day, to make it easier for you to study during exams. And that's all. Good luck.
Tötemeyer is a landmark on the coastline of Namibia, a home to quality shops and quality restaurants, a select variety of fashion and food retailers, as well as banks, not to mention the pier with 36 luxury apartments and entertainment for the whole family. Find us at corner of Tavarit and Albatross Street, Vineta North, Swakopmund. Call us on 064 462 242. Visit platamir.com.na or at Platamir on Facebook. Platamir, enhancing your coastal experience.
For Tuesday's weather report, for Fish Bay, the sun will set at 11 minutes past 7 and will rise at 7 minutes past 7 on Wednesday. For Fish Bay will experience a maximum degree Celsius of 25 with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 23 degrees Celsius predicted for Wednesday. A south-southwest wind will prevail at a speed of 11 kilometers per hour. For Swakopmund, the sun will set at 11 minutes past 7 and will rise at 7 minutes past 7 on Wednesday. Swakopmund will experience a maximum degree Celsius of 24 with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 22 degrees Celsius predicted for Wednesday. A south-southwest wind will prevail at the speed of 9 kilometers per hour. For Henties Bay, the sun will set at 12 minutes past 7 and will rise at 8 minutes past 7 on Wednesday. Henties Bay will experience a maximum degree Celsius of 23 with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 22 degrees Celsius predicted for Wednesday. A south wind will prevail at the speed of 11 kilometers per hour. For Arandas, the sun will set at 10 minutes past 7 and will rise at 5 minutes past 7 on Wednesday. Arandas will experience a maximum degree Celsius of 33 with a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 28 degrees Celsius predicted for Wednesday. A north wind will prevail at the speed of 9 kilometers per hour. For Usakos, the sun will set at 7 minutes past 7 and will rise at 2 minutes past 7 on Wednesday. Usakos will experience a maximum degree Celsius of 31 with a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 29 degrees Celsius predicted for Wednesday. A east-northeasterly wind will prevail at the speed of 13 kilometers per hour. For Karibab, the sun will set at 6 minutes past 7 and will rise at 1 minute past 7 on Wednesday. Karibab will experience a maximum degree Celsius of 29 with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 28 degrees Celsius predicted for Wednesday. A northeast wind will prevail at the speed of 13 kilometers per hour. For Omaruru, the sun will set at 6 minutes past 7 and will rise at 1 minute past 7 on Wednesday. Omaruru will experience a maximum degree Celsius of 29 with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 29 degrees Celsius predicted for Wednesday. A northeast wind will prevail at the speed of 11 kilometers per hour.
unfortunately, we've come to the end of our episode for today, but we'll be with you again tomorrow. So if you'd like to read the stories I read today and many more, please visit our website, which is www.erongo.com.na. I repeat, www.erongo.com.na. If you want to share some messages and videos with us, contact our WhatsApp and Telegram number, which is 011 7040. I repeat, 011 7040. We are also on OneUp2, so please head on to oneup2.com. I repeat, oneup2.com. That is our online TV channel. We also are on DStv, all our animated shows. So grab your remote, press channel 285 for DStv and channel 94 for GOtv. If you'd like to send some news tips to us, write an email to newstips@erongo.com.na. I repeat, newstips@erongo.com.na. From myself, it's a goodbye. We'll see each other again next time.